Alright, good morning everybody. Welcome back to the channel. This is my 2007 Honda Civic LX that I turbocharged using all eBay parts. And on today's video, we're changing the spark plugs out. We're getting spark plugs that have a tighter gap and are 2 steps cooler. And I'll explain everything in this video here below, so keep watching the whole thing. Alright guys, we got a few spark plugs here and a few spark plug gapping tools that I just want to show you. If you're running factory spark plugs, NGK Iridium's part number down below. Currently, I am running the factory spark plugs on the Turbo Civic, and they are doing pretty good. I can't complain. Once I started hitting 7 pounds of boost, I can see it breaking up a little bit. But other than that, it's doing a good job holding 5 to 6 pounds of boost on the factory spark plug. Now the factory spark plugs are gapped to a certain height, right? And the factory gap of those spark plugs is 0.044. Now the ones I have in the car, I gapped previously, even on my naturally aspirated setup, to 0.040. So they're a little bit tighter. The tip is a little bit tighter than the factory gap. And like I said, they're doing okay to 5-6 pounds of boost. There's no issues. But if you're gonna run more boost, or if you want to run cooler temperatures in the cylinder head, and alright, macro lens is on. I got a factory replacement spark plug here. I got a Denso spark plug in the middle, and then I got the brand new BK R8 EXI, which are 2-step colder and do have a tighter gap for the spark plug. So there's 2 things you guys want to watch out for when you're dealing with spark plugs, right? One is the spark plug gap from the tip to the top. As you can see, the left one has the highest gap. Following that up, the middle one is a little tighter, and look at this one right there. That gap is even tighter. So the BK R8s actually have a 0.036 gap, so they're a little tighter, and that's gonna help keep the spark plug firing with more air, more boost. Sometimes you can get a blowout with the spark because of the distance that the electricity has to travel. So if you bring that gap down, it's more likely to fire, and you won't have misfires or anything like that. So that's one reason we're getting a tighter gap spark plug here. Now it's fine, you can also just pre-gap your factory spark plugs a little tighter, and that's gonna do the same thing. Although just be careful, don't pre-gap your spark plugs too many times, because you have a good chance that the electrode hat cover can just snap off over time. But you can definitely pre-gap. I chose new spark plugs because I'm due for new spark plugs. They're factory gapped and they work. Checking the gap, you can either use one of these tools here, and this is going to show you exactly what spec is on the spark plug, or just get some feeler gauges, which I would recommend because it's a lot easier on the spark plugs. Some spark plugs, especially Iridiums, they say you should not gap them because those are little tiny electrode tips that are Iridium might chip off. There's a whole theory on that. But you know, if you're boosted, you're trying to dial in your spark plugs, I mean, you have no choice. You have to gap them for the most part. So these are definitely easier on the spark plugs to gap. Just make sure you get the appropriate sizes to check your spark plug gap. So that's step one. Step one again is the height between the spark plug and the top hat there. And the second thing you want to watch out for is the heat ranges, right? Spark plugs have a different heat range, whether it's they work better in hotter temperatures or colder temperatures, or they run cooler. And as you can see, the factory spark plug has a heat range of 6, but the upgraded spark plug has a heat range of 8. And what that means is the spark plug transfers heat more efficiently to the head, away from the combustion chamber to the head. It dissipates heat. And if you guys haven't noticed already the difference between these top hats here, let me show you. The difference here is, you see the porcelain on each spark plug? Look at the porcelain. This porcelain, you can see quite a bit of it. This porcelain is pretty hidden just as well as with the new two-step colder spark plugs. The porcelain is kind of hidden. Let me get a better view for you guys here. You can see that right now. This one is exposed, and that porcelain in this area is just going to get hotter, and the spark plug technically will run hotter. These Denzos are, I believe, factory replacements that I had, the IK20s, but that porcelain is kind of covered up, so this might be a step or two-step cooler spark plug. I'm not exactly sure on that, but for sure we know these BK R8s are definitely cooler. Again, the top hat is tighter, right? The spark gap is tighter, and you can see the porcelain there. You can see the height of it as well. So again, just to compare, the factory one with the porcelain sticking out and the two-step colder one. So these new spark plugs will hopefully dissipate heat away from the combustion chamber, thus reducing some knock in the combustion chamber. They'll run cooler, and again, because of the tighter gap, I shouldn't have any issues at all at redline or boosting, even if I wanted to boost more in the future. Well, hopefully that gave you a little bit of information on spark plugs. Again, the two most important thing is the spark plug distance gap, right, and the heat ranges. Now, some people say for low boost, you don't gotta change the heat ranges. You can just leave it at the factory heat range, just gap the factory spark plugs, and that's perfectly fine. On Full Race website, you know, Full Race turbo kits, that's the spark plugs they recommended. So, you know, we just ordered those spark plugs. Hopefully they'll do good. We're gonna install those right now. We're also gonna check the plugs that I've been running boosted for about 800 miles now, and we'll see how they look. I know the cars have been running rich a lot, so I'm sure they're pretty black, but we'll find out. Alright, cylinder 1, 2, 3, 4, they all look pretty consistent in color. You let me know how they look. Not too familiar with reading spark plugs. I mean, definitely rich over here, but the porcelain looks pretty good. Reading spark plugs can sometimes tell you guys whether it's running rich or lean, and sometimes they say this is the best way to look at what's going on into the combustion chamber. Again, on the left is the factory NKG spark plugs gapped at 0.40, and on the right are the new ones going in gapped at 0.32, which is the factory gap, two-step colder. Let's throw them on, put some anti-seize on the threads here, and let's see how they help. Alright, everything's dialed in. Spark plugs are changed. Let's start her up, see how she feels. What's up, Lily? So far, so good. God, she's always tuning my computer, huh? Alright guys, well, I'm gonna go for a test drive here. I'm gonna go to my buddy's house, do a few pulls, and you know, we changed the spark plug, so I'm gonna be monitoring knock quite a bit now. Hopefully knock is reduced at this point. And then since I changed on the previous video that charge pipe little piece, right? So hopefully we don't max out our mass airflow sensor as soon as we did earlier. So I'm hoping these improvements are improvements and this thing works a little bit better. So I'll catch everyone on the next video. Thanks for watching again. Follow me on Instagram for more videos that you see before YouTube, and thanks everybody. God bless. Peace.
I ain't here for the money, I ain't here for the fame. Though it might be nice to own a jet plane, I'ma do it all for you. Come along and see it's true.